On the Fringe with Dan RadioStyle. Hope everybody out there is having themselves a great day. I think Joe Biden and his son are going to be in the news big time coming up and probably is going to have to drop out for some reason. I think that time is quickly approaching. It's going to be interesting to see who's supposed to take his place or who actually takes his place. Hillary Clinton's going to be popping up in some of these posts. Got some questions around Weiner and what was going on there. And we've also got a very serious operation that occurred, I'm thinking is hinting at a place where we had some deep state U.S. operatives that were actually helping out ISIS fighters, and likely that spot is now no longer there. So we've got a lot of really neat Q stuff has happened just in a very short period of time. Post 4742 is where we left off last. We've got a Twitter post that we're going to share here in a second. Political leaders and a family to follow with possible ties to sex trafficking. Now, this again is the Bidens. There is some very significant evidence that is popping up in a few different locations around Hunter Biden for sure, but the dirtiness of the money and how the dad was involved in hooking up some of that money, this is a bad, bad situation. So there's going to be attacks, obviously, by the media, and what to signify what, right? They're attacking one, Q, so they're trying to stop this message. Everything they can do to talk about this message is to make us sound like we're all a bunch of nut jobs, that we believe in crazy stuff, that it's a total conspiracy. And I get it. Like, to many people it is. That's fine. For any of us that have actually spent time looking into this information, it's not. And we've got some great stuff to support all this. So sex trafficking, or the safeguarding of women and children, which is essentially what was happening, right? The sex trafficking, we've tried to stop that. So they're putting in bold in brackets, the target, if you will, is the fact that Trump and we, the people, and all this are trying to safeguard women and children. They're targeting that. The deep state does not want that to stop. There's huge money in this. There's this huge weirdness that this echelon of elite get to experience. I say get like it's a good thing, but they experience this level of situations that none of us ever can. The second level, again, this two-tiered system. So all of this stuff has to do with the enemies of humanity, or enemies of the people, or enemies of all these things are bad. So those you are taught to trust the most, unfortunately, we're starting to find out that the ones we trust the most are the ones that are actually doing the horrible stuff. We look at some of our most significant politicians, going to be popping up in these posts today. Some of our most significant politicians that are in the news on a regular basis, that have significant positions of power in the government, are popping up all over the place. A lot of information is being handed to us, we the people, so we can make appropriate decisions about this crazy stuff that's going on. So, John Solomon, breaking news, Senate report slams Biden for conflicts of interest, flags possible criminal activity, GOP-led investigation cites evidence of Burisma bribe, suspicious foreign money transfers, and sex trafficking. What? Wait. Is this a Q? No, this isn't Q. This is John Solomon. Oh, I thought this was a Q person that was all conspiratorial and talking about eating children and sex trafficking. Come to find out, no. It's somewhat of a legitimate individual. Well, let's check out this little situation here where we've got a wonderful video that I think explains this perfectly. So let's take a look at what's going on here.
So I've been doing a lot of reporting on this. I think you could see it as early as the next 24 hours, a lengthy report, a one-year investigation, and it will debunk the false storyline that Democrats gave us during last year's impeachment. Remember, at that time, any questions about Hunter Biden was a conspiracy theory. There was no conflicts. There was nothing bad going on. Here's what the report is likely to reveal. First, the State Department, under Obama and Biden, believed that Joe Biden was engaging in a conflict of interest. Secondly, the State Department detected a $7 million bribe being paid by Burisma, the company hiring Hunter Biden in Ukraine, while Hunter Biden sat on its board. They reported it to the FBI. That sounds like wrongdoing. Third, there was a pressure campaign inside the Obama State Department and in the White House invoking Hunter Biden's name and trying to pressure the U.S. government to make the Burisma corruption allegations go away before the 2016 election ended. And then finally, it wasn't just the State Department worried about Hunter Biden. The Treasury Department flagged several transactions, foreign money flowing into companies connected to Hunter Biden as suspicious transactions, usually the first step in what might launch a money laundering investigation. Those are four things that will almost certainly be in the report tomorrow. And that sounds a lot different than that storyline the Democrats gave us back last fall.
Now, tomorrow's today at this point, because, right, this was yesterday when this article came out, and here we are on the 23rd, a day later. So information's obviously going to start coming out at some point that's going to start talking about this. This isn't going to work for Biden. Now, Biden's already super weak candidate. Was that always the plan? I don't, maybe. So I don't know who the runner-up is. That's still the big question. People have said Michelle Obama. I can't imagine how Hillary would allow that to happen, but she is so literally disliked by the American people that I just can't imagine her being the one. But I suspect she is potentially one of the ones. I don't know, maybe it's her and Michelle, right? Like, wouldn't that be the ticket? But I suspect either or both of them are coming up. I think Michelle Obama's going to have some problems because of the corruption, one, of her husband's whole entire presidency. Two, the fact that I think a lot of people would just assume that Obama would still be a president. Now, for a sect of the left, for sure, the deep state lovers, these people for sure are super supportive of Obama. Like, if Obama could do another 2 terms, they would vote to change that law right now. I get that. But I think a lot of people in the moderate or even in the slight center left that used to be normal, now, since they're so heavily progressive, these people are like, whoa, what happened to my party? Where did they go? Those people are starting to look at this stuff a lot differently. And when the evidence from post 4743, when the evidence of this crimes against humanity starts to show itself, these moderates, these moderate left and moderate rights, no matter what, if they hate Trump or not, when they realize that he's actually trying to help make these things right. And when you put that piece together, when it finally dawns on you that I think this guy's trying to help us, then all of a sudden the hatred of him from all of these deep state players suddenly makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? If you understand that he is trying to undermine this entire illegal tiered system that exists, this horrible stuff, these crimes against humanity, I'm not joking, these level of events that are happening, when he can bring some, DAs on it, like, I mean, it's not Trump. Trump is saying, yes, let's make this stop. People are doing their jobs and doing it. So again, it's a mixture. It's a massive, huge effort by an entire team of people. And again, it's where we go one, we go all is one of the big reasons why that's such an adage. So 4744 is just referencing straight up a very interesting Justice Department release that happened. And I think this is powerful on 2 levels. I'm going to cover this from 2 levels, but this essentially is this Section 230. General Barr, or Attorney General Barr, has sent this to Congress. So one, right off the bat, Congress isn't going to vote on this. You know that. I know that. I know. I mean, it's, again, I think this is part of the show people what's actually happening, right? Optics. So you put this in front of Congress, and the way it's worded, and we'll get there right now in a second, but the way it's worded, they're not going to vote on it. And the American people, again, the moderate, the groups in the middle, and then, of course, everyone on the right, but the groups in the middle are going to look at this and go, what is going on? So the first part they want to talk about is promoting transparency and open discourse. First, the draft legislation has a series of reforms to promote transparency and open discourse and ensure that platforms are fairer to the public when removal of lawful speech from their services. So essentially, just try to at least be more fair about why did you remove it. Just some random little snippet of some community guidelines strike. It's like, well, yeah, but where? What did I say that's wrong? Let me edit it out if it's something stupid. Or if I have done something wrong, like maybe incite violence or any of those kinds of crazy things, well, let me resolve that too. Let me learn. I took radio classes. I learned how to be a DJ way back in the day. I had to actually get an FCC license. So I understand what you're not allowed to say for sure. And there's a lot of people on YouTube that say those things. So that's part of the problem for a lot of people. Well, help them learn. Help them understand that. Most people haven't taken the classes that I've taken to learn all these stupid things. And the second thing they're addressing, illicit activity online. The second category of amendments is aimed at incentivizing platforms to addressing the growing amount of illicit content online while preserving the core of Section 230's immunity from defamation claims. Section 230 immunity is meant to incentivize and protect online good Samaritans, platforms that purposely solicit and facilitate harmful criminal activity. In effect, online bad Samaritans should not receive the benefit of this immunity, nor should a platform receive blanket immunity for continuing to host known criminal content on its services, despite repeated pleas from victims to stop. This is true right using the left's verbiage against them. This is when they call something the Clean Water Act and they hand that bill to Congress and it's got 18,000 pages in it. And you know you're giving money to everybody and their mother, except not even dealing with clean water at all. He's using their language against them and basically saying, if you're allowing criminal content to occur, you're in trouble and you no longer get those protections. So this is going to Congress to vote on. We'll see how that plays out. The other thing that I think is very interesting, just to point out, this whole idea of the New World Order, or that place where the one government was supposed to happen, and we were slowly giving away our rights. I forget the proper term for the number or whatever they call it. Whatever, it doesn't matter. But this, I think, was always in there for that reason. This was always meant to be some higher authority of a technology or technocrat was going to decide what's okay to talk about and what's not okay to talk about. It was always in the plans. It's now being fought against. Again, the people that are here supporting we, the people, are here taking down some of these horrible barriers that exist in front of us. Post 4745, Inspector General report. So number 3, they're showing with us, and this is from Fox News from whenever the hell. Yeah, I can't see any date on there. 3, Wiener, texting 15-year-old, sexually explicit. Initial analysis of the laptop, there were thousands of emails, but what popped up as a little bit of a normal, hey, look at this. It seems to show up in a lot of places, this pattern we're seeing. Hillary Clinton and Foundation and crimes against children were very common throughout page 294. That's so awesome. Now, granted, if each page is literally that small, then page 294 literally is probably the second page. Turn the page over once, and now you're into the 294th Fox page, but whatever. They're seeing some very interesting information from the Wiener laptop. There's been a lot of people that have talked about the FBI agents that actually looked at this laptop and looked at some of the pictures in there. And literally some of them said, I wasn't there, I don't know, but I believe it. But some of them said they had to leave the room and throw up. They had to toss their cookies because it was disgusting what they were seeing. I don't know what disgusting is. I don't just think it, again, I'm not going to speculate. I don't know what disgusting to the point of throwing up is, but it's probably freaking horrible, right? So I don't know, whatever it is. That was 4745. 4746, let the truth be told. Political spying, less than 1%. So what they're, I think, really trying to point out, the illegal aspect of our FBI, the illegal aspect of our CIA, the illegal aspect of the NSA, the illegal aspect of Homeland Security, the illegal aspect of fill in alphabet name soup here. They are telling us, hey, look. It's like the cops, right? 1% of the cops probably bad apples. The unions maybe protect them. We got to do something about that for sure, for everybody's sake. But 99% of the cops are awesome. Blue line all the way. Blue lives matter. Black lives matter. Brown lives matter. Everybody matters to me. All right? Everybody matters. But I'll say all those stupid things. I'm not putting my fist in the air, but I'll say all those other things. That's really awesome. Unless I won a game, then I'll do the fist thing. That's pretty cool. But have faith in humanity is what they're saying. It's not as rampant as it's kind of been made out to be. We've got a functioning government. I think it's a lot better off than people realize. We don't need to strip it down and rebuild it. We just need to get the few bad apples out of the bunch so they don't spoil everything else. That's how the adage goes. So kind of what they're talking about in that post. 4747 are referencing an older post, 3837. So bigger than you can imagine. We're going to they're affecting really looking at the crimes against humanity portion, right? So again, but at the time they were trying to say that everything is bigger than you realize. Bigger than selling states the secret, bigger than U.S. security, military tech, CIA. It's bigger than all of that stuff. We've got these major crimes against humanity. Now, some of that could be plans on how they've wanted to try to remove people from this planet. That was one of the things that many have speculated, that they wanted to remove 90% of the population and have probably initiated certain things in certain countries, probably Africa for sure, just from some of the stuff I've read. But a lot of crazy things have maybe been initiated that could possibly have caused the deaths of millions of people, or have caused people to become sterile for millions of people. Those are crimes against humanity, those kinds of things. And I'm not going to speculate as to where and why and what sorts of things are happening to cause that. You can figure that out for yourself, but saying the words oftentimes will get you in trouble. But again, there's a lot of concerns around all of that. I don't know if I covered everything. Yeah, bigger than you can imagine. That's the big point. This is huge. I want to make sure I didn't miss something. All right, post 4748. Here's a big one, as they might say. So we've got this amazing Hunter Biden trafficking ring. So we'll just look at it real quick. Senate report links Hunter Biden to prostitution or human trafficking. What? Yeah, seriously. This is some report. Hunter Biden sent thousands of dollars to people who appear. By the way, this is the New York Post. I mean, it's not like horrible tabloid. I mean, granted, all of a sudden when news is, something that's favorable for what I want to say, I'm like, oh, this is a good source, and if it's something I don't like, then I'm like, oh, it's a bad source. Whatever the case. It is what it is. Sometimes you like it, sometimes you don't. Hunter Biden sent thousands of dollars to people who appear to be involved in sex industry, according to a report. Let's just see what the hell that actually is. We'll look at it in a second. Released Wednesday by Republicans in the U.S. Senate. Now, this was released by Republicans in the U.S. Senate. Now, recently we had that post I've talked about where, Trump was basically saying, I'm a little upset with the Republicans for not doing anything about this. So it looks like some information might be coming out now. Explosive report. Yeah. So anyway, So the report says that unspecified records show that Biden has sent funds to non-resident alien women in the United States who are citizens of Russia and Ukraine and who have subsequently wired funds they have received from Hunter Biden to individuals located in Russia and Ukraine. The records also note that some of these transactions are linked to what appears to be an Eastern European prostitution or human trafficking ring. Interesting. And it's not usually, I don't think anyways, not an expert in this, but if you think about it from the FBI standpoint, probably not really hard to identify who these types of people are, right? A little bit of information goes a long way. So yeah, people just disappear, people get traded, people get moved, and there's a lot of very interesting Eastern European groups that get stuck out here having to do menial jobs and sex trades and all sorts of things. I mean, again, there is a weird illegal human trafficking that exists. Our southern border was a big part of it. Oddly, for some reason, our northern border is not as big a concern. So I guess maybe it's hard to smuggle stuff into Canada. But whatever the case is, I mean, getting across the Canadian border is not too terribly difficult. But yeah, senators reporting that Hunter Biden is heavily involved in something. So what? No media coverage. Are we surprised? No. Why? Why do you think they're not talking about it? Who's the vice presidential candidate? Who's the deep state candidate? Who's the guy that's in bed with all these people? Who's the person that's going to hand him the keys to the United States as soon as he's in office? If he ever is. Of course he won't be, but nah. The same people who control the media are the same people who are part of the evil and corrupt system. See, they put a question mark there, so you're not making a statement, because a statement would be incorrect. But are these same people who control the media, are they the same people that are part of this same evil and corrupt system? I don't know. But it does seem like it's a system of control, doesn't it? Right? We've got this group of people that are trying to just talk about some of the stuff that's out there, the news, the crazy news, and coup people and all this stuff. And we try to talk about it just so it's out there. There's information because the mainstream media never talks about it. And those people get censored, strikes, and all this other stuff. Yet the mainstream media can come out and say whatever they want, and no one can refute them. No one can say anything. It's a system of control. It's exactly what propaganda is. So again, crimes against humanity. Are these people involved? The news people? Probably. I think a lot of them are. You are not meant to think for yourself, and you're not. You're supposed to do as you're told. You are not meant to challenge their power or control. Obey and accept. It's an illusion of democracy that we have. Remember, votes were typically, I think, supposedly, votes didn't necessarily always go where you wanted. You had an electoral college that probably maybe could be bought and paid for. Who knows? And I'm not saying get rid of the electoral college. I think that's a good thing. I'm just saying it's still an individual that represents, thousands to millions of votes. So we have this illusion of freedom. And again, I think the slavery that most of us have pretty much agreed to in our lives is financial slavery, right? If you got a rent, if you're basically paying rent or have a car or any sort of bills, any responsibilities, a child, a wife and family, yeah, you're very well likely gave up your freedom long ago. So why does the media push division? And this is one of the biggest questions a lot of us have to ask. Why? Why aren't the media this powerful microphone that could literally help unite the planet? Why don't they? They could. And all they do right now is blame the one side that doesn't want to just accept all the crap that comes out of their mouth. And the other side is holier than thou and can't do anything wrong. So why do they push division? We always talk about this very important system of control. Keep that in mind when I ask these questions. Why does the media push division? Why does the media incite violence? Why does the media pit race versus race, especially today with the grand jury indicts former Louisville cop Brett Hankinson and Breonna Taylor, right? The Breonna Taylor thing came out today. No charges related to her shooting death. So we got a bunch of people that are already in the streets, that are already a little miffed, and we'll see what happens tonight. But again, that the Breonna Taylor thing came out, and yeah, they didn't indict anybody for the actual killing of her. I think they indicted one guy for using extreme force, like just shot his entire magazine. I mean, it was like a ridiculous number of rounds, bro. Like you had no idea what the hell was in that room. You're just like, da, 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 da. Not okay. Anyway, so that's where that's at. So why does the media incite violence? Why does it pit race versus race? Why does the media pit religion versus religion? Why does the media pit sex versus sex, right? The man-woman thing is a big deal right now. Everyone hates men right now. Why does the media pit class versus class? Because it's just the rich people. If you're making over $500,000, I'm not coming after your money. All right, whatever. Or if you're making under, whatever the hell, right? They never stop taking money from anybody. Why does the media pit class versus class? Divided we are weak. Divided we fight each other. They don't have to worry about it. Why mess with an enemy when they're destroying themselves? Divided, you pose no threat to their system of control. Unity is strength. Where we go one, we go all. Strength. They hate that. Unity is power. Unity is humanity. Controlled media plays a major role in sharpening the narratives to keep you powerless. These are the talking points that they're supposed to use to shut us down. And really, generally, it's name calling, but they're getting a little better with it. And I honestly, I think they're learning far too slowly, especially for as quickly as things are moving, as quickly as this is spreading, and as close as the elections are. I don't think they're making nearly the progress they need to. And so they're losing very, very, very badly, which means they're going to get desperate, or more desperate, or desperater. But helpless and asleep humans. That's what we are when we don't understand what's actually going on. When we listen to the propaganda and go, yeah, no, that's what's going on. Everybody hates everybody. There's just inherent racism in everybody. All right, whatever. But yeah, enemy of the people. It's what the media is, why they're called fake media. That's why we call them fake news. It's why we consider them to potentially, and Trump said it, but potentially to be an enemy of the people. And that's why they're intentionally leading a group of people towards a certain narrative that doesn't seem to be rooted in actual facts, seems to be rooted more in ideology, but not actual facts. And that seems to be a big problem. So yes, an enemy of the human people. Post 4749, we've got a Twitter post. Everyone has a choice to make, and this is against all enemies, foreign and domestic. This is actually an interesting, I'm going to go for it. This is an interesting thing. It's 6 minutes. We'll see. I might cut it early. It's actually pretty good all the way through. I just wish it was a little snappier, but whatever the case is, right here.
Conspiracy group called QAnon could have a significant influence in the upcoming election. QAnon first surfaced back in 2017. Now it maintains that President Trump is leading a war against liberal elites who, according to QAnon, are running a global sex trafficking network, including some very famous people. Now, there is zero evidence, that any of this is true. Tonight's episode of 60 in 6 takes an inside look at QAnon. 60 in 6 features 60-minute style storytelling in episodes that last around 6 minutes or so. It airs on the streaming app Quibi, is produced by CBS News, which is part of a Viacom CBS, an investor in Quibi. 60 and 60 correspondent and founder of Media, Media, that's Lori Siegel, spoke with leaders of the movement.
I just want to really quick, just to jump back to that one section where the lady was dancing with the flag. Did you notice how she was catching everything on fire like Antifa people? No, she didn't, did she? No, she was just sitting there dancing.
Dustin Nemos is a part of the QAnon community. And it's also how he makes a living.
This is Dustin Nemos of the Nemos News Network.
Nemos posts on his YouTube channel several times a week, sometimes several times a day.
Should we talk a little bit about COVID
and considers himself a seeker of truth in a fake news world.
COVID is the biggest lie fake news has ever told.
How can you say that when you look at the numbers?
Well, I don't trust the numbers, first of all. In New York, they supposedly had hashtag warzone hospitals. I had friends and audience members going out there with their cell phones saying it's a ghost town. No one's here.
You're talking to someone who is in New York. You're talking to a crew of folks who experienced a lot of this firsthand.
Well, why were the hospitals empty when these people went there?
You saw it on YouTube. We saw it in real life.
We saw it from you. We heard your version. No offense. We don't trust you guys.
As someone who was in New York City in the height of COVID,
Yes.
who had friends in the hospital, I can tell you it just as simply isn't true.
We had whistleblower nurses who went into this and exposed what was happening. Hospitals were actually monetized and incentivized to lie about COVID patients.
What evidence do you have besides online speculation?
There's months now of documented evidence for this.
What kind?
Various articles. The Gateway Pundit and Zero Hedge has
Where?
put out many
What
of them.
kind of article?
Nemos News Network, if you want to go
That's your
search
network.
Absolutely. I've been covering this since the beginning, so I've covered every bit of it.
So again, one of the things that's really key about this is they keep attacking this whole Q movement. They keep trying to say, what evidence do you have of the contrary, of the propaganda we're telling them? We've got videos of people that have literally gone into some of these locations and shown what it's actually like. Now, she's claiming that she's got friends there. She's claiming that she's got, this is not true. She's claiming, where's her evidence? I mean, using the same logic that she's using, where's her evidence? I mean, he's talking about video footage, people writing about, like people talking about it. And what's people just saying, you're just a bunch of conspiracy theorists, whatever. We don't care what you say. Oh, geez, really? Come on.
You know, more than 200,000 Americans have died since the pandemic. I know CBS has been reporting on these deaths and has knowledge firsthand. So obviously a pretty tense exchange there. You see, we're almost living two different versions of the truth, Gail.
Yeah, I'm curious about how you kept your face on straight, Lori, but I am wondering, how did they gain so many followers based on all of these false theories?
Based off all these false theories. Again, it's the way they try to lead it. But I will say, and this is why I'm making you watch all this, or having you, hopefully you're watching all this, is because her answer basically acknowledges we're a force to be reckoned with. And I think that is something important to take away. This is what they're telling their crazy left progressives. This is what they're telling them.
Yeah, I mean, I think this movement is growing so quickly, and you have this mysterious figure Q who drops these predictions online, and people are really, really following this. And you know, I think it's actually a perfect storm. You have the disenfranchisement of people. You have this pandemic where people are turning online, and then you also have this growing distrust of mainstream media. You have the coining of fake news. You have misinformation spreading online, and it really has created a perfect storm that's led to Q.
Yeah, it's very frightening. What are some of the main misconceptions?
You know, I think this is something we can't ignore. I've covered internet movements my whole career for the last decade, and this is unlike anything I've ever covered. These aren't just people who are in their mom's basement, right? This is a movement people really find appealing. You know, you have nearly 100 state and congressional candidates that are circulating the messages of Q. 29 have won primaries. Being on the ground, you begin to really understand that people are, you know, looking for some type of leadership, looking for something different. They're almost forming their own political party online. So I really don't think we can ignore this, and I don't think we can ignore how quickly this is spreading.
The silent masses, they keep talking about the silent masses. It's grown to the point now where they've got to actually try to beat it down, but it's like a whack-a-mole at this point. You beat this one down and it's going to pop up over here. So again, they're acknowledging the problem.
And when they circulate the messages that you speak of, what are the political implications of that?
I mean, extraordinary implications. When you're on the ground, one of the interesting things, Gail, is when...
By the way, aren't all of us on the freaking ground?
When we were in this rally, and it was a pretty intense environment with the media, you know, they're filming you as you're filming them because they distrust the media. But I think the big question is what's going to happen when we head towards the election, and will they accept the results? You know, I actually spoke to a lot of folks inside.
Will they accept the results? Will we accept the results? Tomato, tomato. It's the same way, right? Who's going to be making all the noise, putting all the doubt on our minds?
The rally. Listen to what they said.
President Trump's going to get reelected.
What if he's not reelected?
Oh, he's going to be reelected.
But what if he's not reelected?
If President Trump is not reelected, then that's for the American people to decide if the elections were fair. I think there's going to be a lot of very angry Americans that he wasn't reelected.
It won't happen. What if the sky was green It's not green. What if it was green? But it's not green. But what if it was? Then I guess we'd say it was a beautiful green sky.
The only way it'll happen is with your vote fraud, not their vote fraud. So what happens if he doesn't? Then the military will probably step in.
Which to them makes a big point, like, oh, see, some random schmo thinks the military is going to come in. Well, one, that's not crazy in its own right, but again, they've already talked about it as far as the talking points from the deep state. So this is nothing new. They make it sound like it's a crazy conspiracy. I love it.
The question is, will this online movement move offline? And I think that's what a lot of us are wondering, and a lot of experts who are looking at this are wondering, and will they accept results regardless? And I think that's what I really heard on the ground, because one of the things to note about QAnon is Donald Trump is really that guiding force. They look for cues and signs in anything Trump tweets and anything he says, Gail.
And who is Q, Lori? Are you able to figure out who is it, male, female group? Who is this person?
It's this guy named Jeff. He's really nice. He's just down the street from me.
Or group.
Right. I had this question. I was like, everyone is talking about Q and going on and on about, these predictions that haven't come true. And what's interesting is no one knows who Q is. Q is, and when you go into these groups, a lot of these folks, they don't want to know who Q is, and they're not interested in that. And so Q is this mysterious figure who's posting, and it could be one person, it could be many people who's posting these predictions. And so it's almost, I put it like this, it's almost the gamification of conspiracy theories, where it's like these people believe in doing their own research and looking up their own stuff. And
that's my favorite line in the whole thing. It's like all these people that want to do their own research. Ugh, God, gross. Really? You want to learn stuff yourself? That's disgusting.
Down the rabbit hole of the internet, they can find truth in anything, and they don't know who Q is, nor do they care.
All right, Lori.
Yeah, I just don't want to, I don't want you using your research. I just want you to believe my stupid research. Yeah, whatever. So, post 4750. Who wields significant influence regarding the Clinton Democratic Party? Well, gee whiz, you think maybe it's Hillary Rodham Clinton? Got a couple really cool little emails that we're going to share with you here in just a second. Who wields significant influence regarding the Hussein Democrat Party? Well, oddly, Hillary, but... And unfortunately, we're going to hear that name that so many people hate. Soros directly implicated as well in all three of these emails that were shared on WikiLeaks. No wonder they hate Julian Assange, right? Poor guy's talking to himself these days because he's so freaking out of his mind. He's been solitary or in confinement for so damn long. The poor guy's going nuts. Of course he is. Can't do that to people. We're social beings. Anyway, different factions of foreign primary control. Once they establish that someone from another country is influencing our elections, our policy, our procedures, and what we're doing, you now have a big, big problem on your hands. If only we had evidence. Is that misleading? Is that maybe a foreshadow? It might be. Who paid Hussein Harvard law degree? Who paid for it? Who financed Hussein's political life? Who is Prince Al-Walid bin Talal? Why do those names just flow off our tongues over here? Why are Hussein's school records under seal? We probably got really bad grades, huh? Competing factions, each with a horse in the race, seeking direct White House control or control of the U.S. military, which is ultimately what it all comes down to. Whoever's got control of the industrial military complex and can put them wherever they want, well, that's a whole different thing. And by the way, this little part of his school's records, probably because it shows he's from another country. But anyways, because I'm sure he used that to get into Harvard easier. So he probably said he was born in Kenya or wherever the hell it was. Competing factions, each with a horse. So we got trillions overseas of transfers to U.S. taxpayers' funds. So obviously the Iran deal, which was going to come up in a couple posts here in a second. But again, all of these people are working together, coordinated. Infiltration is not invasion, right? You take over from the inside. You put people in power in important places that start making decisions that keep you from doing, well, what you would normally do, or at least keep the country from doing what it would normally do, or influence the country in directions it wouldn't normally go. So we have some evidence of that. What happens to U.S. taxpayer funds transferred overseas under guise of aid, military probably aid, climate aid, and et cetera? U.S. taxpayer funding the destruction of America. Now, I'm assuming the answer to this question, what happens to U.S. taxpayer funds, probably just dispersed, given away to everybody. I'm sure maybe we've lately anyways tried to pay attention to where and what's going on, but for the most part, they probably just sent, pallet of cash, just set it down in the middle of the village, and everyone just comes and takes off stacks of cash. I don't know. So we got 3 WikiLeaks posts. This is from Lona Valmoro to Hillary Clinton. Ultimate thing here is down here you say, I would like to see George Soros, who may have asked for an appointment. Jeff Skoll, who runs the Skoll Conference at Oxford, I've attended. Jan Piercy knows how to reach him. And yes, Jeff is here on the 25th through the 27th on my radar screen for a DC meeting. And that was sent to Huma Abedin, a name you've probably heard before, and also from that same person. And Hillary was part of that. So obviously Soros was in and around talking to them. All right, well, that's not necessarily direct proof per se. But we end up with this email here. Dear Hillary, to whom it may concern, a serious situation has arisen in Albania which needs urgent attention at senior levels of the U.S. government. You may know that an opposition demonstration in Tirana on Friday resulted in the deaths of 3 people and the destruction of property, which is horrible, I assume, except when you do it in the United States. There are serious concerns about further unrest connected to a counter-demonstration to be organized by the governing party on Wednesday and a follow-up event by the opposition 2 days later, memorializing the victims. The prospects of tens of thousands of people entering the streets in an already inflamed political environment bodes ill for the return of public order and the country's fragile democratic process. Long story short, George Soros is asking for some help. Hey, so here's what I need. Bring the full weight of the international community to bear on Prime Minister Berisha and opposition leader Edi Rama to forestall further public demonstrations and tone down the public pronouncements. Also, we want you to appoint a senior European official as a mediator. So here's an individual, George Soros, who is now trying to essentially influence what is going on. And so, yeah, at the very end, signed George Soros. Apparently, he uses a different email name. I was just noticing that from Jonas Roulette. So whatever the case is, but apparently he signs it George Soros. Maybe that's his real name. I don't know. We've also got down here another little bit of all sorts of unclassified stuff. And then we get into the Hungarian-American financier speaking to a small side gathering, yada, yada, yada. Long story short, there's more discussions in here. While Soros' commitment gave some attendees the impression that he'd cheer a primary challenge to the president, the point, sources say, was different. Rather, it is time to shuffle funds into a progressive infrastructure that will take on the tasks that the president can't or won't take on. People are determined to help build a progressive infrastructure and make sure it is there, not just in the months ahead, but one that will last in the long term. So this progressive fund, this ability to shift everything as far left as possible, to try to get funds essentially from Americans, hardworking Americans, I might add, and try to distribute these funds to other locations throughout the world, into different zones that they want to try to influence and create problems against basically anti-freedom for sure. And that's kind of what George Soros stands for in a nutshell. Now, Post 4751 points out some very interesting systems of control and kind of how it works here in California, for example. Now, the 4 families, 3 generations. We've got the Brown family. So we had Moonbeam, as Jerry was frequently called, and he also served as a governor twice, which is pretty significant. And then his daddy, Pat Brown. So Pat Brown is who hooked up Pelosi's family. So that's John Pelosi. He was partners in the Squaw Valley thing that Pat started. He approved the Squaw Valley concession for Newsom and Pelosi. So they began to get rich at that point, and he helped do that. Now, in the process, the Pelosi's and the Williams decide to give money back to the Gavin Newsom, or to Newsom's informally adopted. Well, they basically are giving money back to these financial people to try to help support them. So Jerry Brown, same thing. He appoints this WM Jr. judge. I'm not sure who he was. Doesn't matter, I don't think. All these people are tied up. And as the judge helps change trust laws to benefit Gordon, retires, administers Gordon's trust, which then apparently Gordon's money was then used to help, or this law was used to help with this Getty's trust. Anyway, it just shows this weird movement of the money, the way these people have been in bed forever. And it's why California is so heavily left, and why it's so hard to get that rooted out, because it is built into the system at this point. It's very bad. Post 4752. Interesting that John Solomon guy, I guess his Twitter account got taken down, probably for sharing that video, or this is the one that's supposed to have to do with the video itself. It looks like it's his account altogether. So yeah, the guy that was showing that video back here. Yeah, this guy. That guy. He was talking about it. And apparently, yeah, his Twitter got shut down like a mofo. So that's where they're at with that. All right, and here's the final post, 4753, I think. We'll double check before we go. Dopey Prince Al-Walid Talal wants to control U.S. politicians with daddy's money. Can't do it when I get elected. Now, I hinted at a thing that went down today, it seems, because the vote, the 23rd. So again, a good chunk of Europe and everybody else is ahead of us by 8, 9, 10, 11 hours, right? So tomorrow is always right now for us. So the 23rd was essentially yesterday from our standpoint. But what happened yesterday at some point in the day, at around 13 Syrian service members and 17 terrorists were reportedly killed in clashes which went on for more than 24 hours. Earlier this month, ISIS launched a similar attack on SSA positions in Resafa, and back then a series of fierce airstrikes by the Russian aerospace forces forced the terrorists to retreat. The terrorists are attacking southern Raqqa from their hideouts in the nearby Homs Desert. Hundreds of ISIS fighters and commanders and taking shelter there. ISIS terrorists are allegedly receiving support from the U.S.-backed fighters in a nearby area of Al-Tanaf. I am willing to bet, one, that I mispronounced that. Two, I'm willing to bet that that is a bad area of deep state actors. And the fact that it's being shared in this article, in the South Front, means it's already happened. We just saw the B-2 stealth bomber pictures with the 2 bombs dropped, right? Same kind of thing. Didn't see it coming. These guys probably just got rocked, on top of the fact that I still think we've got potentially Brennan and possibly Comey, or both, hopefully, are going to be probably seeing some indictments coming soon. We've kind of gotten that hint thrown at us lately as well. So a lot going on the Q front. I'm sorry this video went so long. It's just a lot of information. 4753 is the final post. It's just the time right now to remember, try to stay informed, try to stay on top of what's going on, try to make sure you can at least understand to the best of your ability what is happening in the big picture, and understand that there are forces in action that are moving to make this a better world and to improve this for we, the people. And I'll be honest, everybody hates Donald Trump. That truly is one of the things I use to try to help decide, is this guy probably really, truly trying to do the stuff that I think he's trying to do? Yeah, I think he is. Everyone hates his ass. That's probably the guy we want in that position. And he knows business, which this government definitely needs with the deficits and all the crap we run. So I think we're moving in the right direction. I think they're doing everything in their power to shut down the elections, to cause questions with the Supreme Court justice nominations, which are moving forward. I had so much good news planned out for today. And again, this Breonna Taylor issue, just be safe, folks. Be on the lookout. What you see, if you see it, report it. Like, let's be friends. Let's get our neighborhood watch programs going on. Let's have some plans in place if things happen. But things are going to heat up. Breonna Taylor's coming out now. It's just a matter of the James Floyd thing coming out. I'm expecting that to come out a lot closer to the elections, because that's going to be part of the, you can't vote safely because there's violence in the streets. You can't vote safely because of COVID. You can't vote safely because of all these horrible things. Keep this in mind. This is what's happening right now. Informed, we are powerful. United, we are exceptionally powerful. Where we go one, we go all. It's On the Fringe with Dan RadioStyle.